Good morning, Wham! All right, check out this guy on the Quaker Oats. It's William Penn. And that's who we're doing today. William the Wise. Hey, how's it going, Connor?
What's up?
There you go. All right, guys, you ready for chapter 28, William the Wise? William Penn was born with a silver spoon in his mouth and servants at his feet. His father was an important admiral, rich, Anglican, and a friend of King Charles II. What did William Penn do when he grew up? He became a member of a radical, hated, outcast sect, the Society of Friends, also known as the Quakers. What did being a Quaker do for William Penn? It got him kicked out of college when he refused to attend Anglican prayers. It got him a beating from his father, who wanted him to belong to the Church of England. It led him to jail for his beliefs more than once. It gave him a faith that carried through his life. And it also gave him a reason for founding an American colony. King Charles II liked William Penn in spite of his religion. Everyone, it seems, was charmed by his sweet ways. But when Penn came before the king and refused to take off his hat, Quakers defer only to God. Some people gasped and wondered if Penn's head, along with his hat, might be removed. But Charles, the merry monarch, must have been in a good mood. As the story goes, he laughed and doffed his own hat, saying, "Only one head can be covered in the presence of a king." Now, King Charles had borrowed money from Admiral Penn, a goodly sum it must have been, because after the admiral died, when William asked the debt be paid with the land in America, he was given a tract of land larger than all of England. King Charles named it Pennsylvania, which means Penn's Woods. So, can you imagine the King of England owed William Penn money? Imagine owing William Penn. So that's how rich he was. Pennsylvania was situated midway between the pious Puritans in New England and the convenient Anglicans in the South. Quakers weren't wanted in either region. And if you can remember, they hung Mary Dyer for being a Quaker. Thanks to William Penn, Quakers now had their own colony. But he made it different from most of the other colonies. Penn really believed in brotherly love. He said that Pennsylvania was not just for Quakers, but for everyone. And the reason why they used brotherly love there, Philadelphia, one of the biggest cities of Pennsylvania, that means city of brotherly love. The king had picked a good man to lead a colony, perhaps the best of all who tried it. Penn was an educated man, a philosopher, a town planner, and a lawyer. He wanted Pennsylvania to be a colony where Quaker ideas about peace and goodness would prevail. In England, Quakers seemed a threat to everyone who left, who felt comfortable with the old established ways of thinking. The country had beheaded a king, and that didn't work out. New ideas seemed dangerous, as they often do. Quakers had notions that would change old England. Wealthy citizens didn't want things to change, so it was poor people mostly who were Quakers. So what they meant by the beheading of a king, King Charles I got his head cut off, and there was no king for 20, 30 years, and the Puritans ruled. And then when Oliver Cromwell died, he was leading the Puritans. England was sick of all the rules and no Christmas, so then King Charles II is now king. You can read about that in chapter 27 if you want, but it's English history, so you don't really, it's up to you. In Penn's day, some people, ministers, kings, lords, and dukes, were considered superior to the average person. They expect others to bow to them. The Quakers wouldn't. They wouldn't bow to anyone. They even refused to pay taxes to support the Church of England. Can you see a problem? The Anglicans did. They wanted money. England had lords and ladies in the rich upper class, merchants and farmers in the middle class, and peasants and poor people in the lower class. It was almost impossible to rise from the lower class to the upper. The upper class lords and earls often acted as if they were better than anyone else. It was that class system that made many ambitious people come to the New World. In America, with hard work, many poor people would rise to the top. Because the Bible says, "Thou shalt not kill," Quakers believe all war is wrong. They won't fight even when drafted into the army. They are called conscientious objectors because their conscience tells them not to fight. And they won't swear allegiance to a king or government or flag or anyone but God. So, like, for instance, the Quakers wouldn't do the Pledge of Allegiance because they won't pledge allegiance to the flag. That was another real problem in England, where people were expected to swear their loyalty to the king. William Penn wanted to practice Quaker ideas in America. That meant treating all people as equals and respecting all religions. Those new ideas of toleration and natural rights were confusing. It was difficult for good people to know what was right. Do you understand the difference between toleration and equality? Some colonies offered freedom of religion, but not equality. You could practice any religion, but you couldn't vote or hold office, be a mayor or a sheriff, unless you belonged to the majority's church. That wasn't true in Penn's colony. While he was in charge, all religions were equal. So toleration is good, equality is what we're hoping for. That's what we should have. When Penn said all people, he meant all people. Quakers were among the first to object to Negro slavery, and more than anyone else to treat Indians as equals. In 1681, William Penn wrote a letter to the Native Americans of Pennsylvania. He said, "May we always live together as neighbors and friends. Else what would the great God say to us, who hath made us not to devour and destroy one another, but live soberly and kindly together in the world?" Penn proposed a firm league of peace. He continued, "I am very sensible to the unkindness and injustice that hath been too much exercised toward you by the people of these parts of the world. But I am not such a man. I desire to win and gain your love and friendship by a kind, just, and peaceable life." Penn was generous as well as fair. He offered land on easy terms to those who came to his colony. On his first visit to America, he sailed up the Delaware River and picked the site of Pennsylvania's first capital, Philadelphia. Then he helped plan this city by using a pattern of crossing streets called a grid. That would be copied throughout the new land. He gave numbers to all the streets that went in one direction. The streets that went the other way would be given, he gave tree names like pine and chestnut and walnut. Philadelphia is still thought of as a fine example of town planning. Penn wrote a Charter of Liberties for Pennsylvania. Penn said the charter set up a government free to the people under it, where the laws rule, and the people are a party to those laws. The southeastern part of Pennsylvania was called the Three Lower Counties. In 1704, those counties asked for their own assembly, and William Penn gave it to them. In 1776, they became an independent state named Delaware. William Penn didn't stay in America for long. He had business to attend to in England, so he chose rulers for Pennsylvania. Since he owned the place, he had a right to do that. Penn did not believe in democracy. Hardly anyone did at the beginning of the 18th century. He was an aristocrat. In those days, ordinary people were not thought to be capable of picking their own leaders. William Penn thought he was choosing good people to lead his colony, but as it turned out, he was too trusting. The men he picked tried to run his colony, fought among themselves, and cheated him. He would have been better off if he believed in democracy. William Penn lost most of his fortune developing Pennsylvania. But Penn did prove that freedom and fairness worked. Philadelphia was soon the largest, most prosperous city in the colonies. People came from Germany, France, Scotland, and Wales, as well as England, looking for religious freedom and a good place to live. One, a boy named Benjamin Franklin, came from Boston. All right, great job. We'll see you tomorrow. Say goodnight, Connor.
Good night, Connor.
Oh, boy. All right. Good night, guys.